2, or in fact production number 3 for the quadratic formula. Riveting stuff, I know. So I'll start by just asking you a quick question that's very relevant, because hopefully we're all doing a little bit of work online and getting through all our subjects. And my question to you is, why did the student eat their homework? And of course the reason is because the student's teacher said it was a piece of cake. Alright, so here we go. So the previous video introduced us to the quadratic formula and talked about how we can use the determinant, the b squared minus 4ac part of the equation, or the formula, to determine whether we have one solution, two solutions, or no solutions. And probably the most important thing is to determine whether there's no solution. That is when b squared minus 4ac is a negative or less than 0, because we can't take the square root of a negative number. So if you quickly do that check, it can tell you whether it's worth proceeding or not. So last video we did one intro example of how we use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic equation. And we're going to go through a few more examples as well. So if we go to example 2, let's look at where there is no solution. Okay, so if we take the formula or the equation 4x squared plus 7x plus 5, okay, we can see from here that the a will be equal to 4, the b will be equal to 7, and the c will be equal to 5. Now, as I said in the last video, the values of the a's and the b's and the c's also take on the directed value of that coefficient or constant in the equation. So because that's a plus 7 and that's a negative 5, and of course the 4 is obviously a plus, then a, b and c are all positive numbers. So we can just substitute those into the equation here. So now, doing a quick check of the determinant, like we talked about in the previous video, if I evaluate the determinant b squared minus 4ac, that's the bit that we're taking a square root of, clearly if that is less than 0, okay, that is it has a negative value, then we know straight away that we can't find a solution to this particular equation. And there are situations where quadratic equations don't have a solution, because just very quickly looking, if you graph that quadratic equation, it would not cross the x-axis. So obviously that means that there'd be no solution. And we're going to look at that further next term. So because it's negative, that's it. Can't solve it. So we don't need to proceed any further, and we'd just say something like no real solutions. Now, not for this year, although if you Google imaginary numbers, there's plenty on the internet about what it's all about, but you would look at that more in year 11 and year 12, especially if you go on and do math specialists. You'll understand a little bit more about what no real solutions mean. And for all intents and purposes for this course, there is no possible solution ever to that particular equation. Although Google imaginary numbers, okay, which is an I, that's a terrible I. I still haven't mastered writing very well in this, but an imaginary number I, check that out, and it might be able to explain to you a little bit of the basics of how we can use imaginary numbers to solve negative square roots. But that's an aside. Because the value of the determinant is negative, there'll be no real solutions for this particular quadratic equation, so that's it. Simple as that. So as I said in my previous video, it's always worth now that you understand the determinant, regardless of what quadratic equation you're looking at and what strategy you're trying to use to factorize it and solve it. It's always worth just quickly checking what the determinant is, because if it's a negative value, all your efforts are going to be for nothing to try and solve it, and it just will save you a bit of time. Okay, let's look at example 3. So this example, we want to solve x squared minus 3x minus 5. Now here it says give your answers to correct to 2 decimal places. So here and only here, where you're actually asked to give an answer as a decimal place, can you do so. Now, as I say down the bottom here, only give answers in decimal form if you're asked to, like this question, or if the context of the problem that you're trying to solve makes it acceptable and relevant to give an answer in decimals. Okay? If in doubt though, or unless noted otherwise, always give your answers to the solutions for quadratic equations in fractional and surd form where relevant. Okay? So because we've gone through some of the initial examples working through every single step, I'm going to skip that a little bit now, other than to say the key is to evaluate and find and determine what the A and what the B is and what the C value is, remembering the signs in front of these numbers because they take on a positive or a negative value for A, B and C, and that's really important to make sure that you're substituting the positive and the negative values into the formula as well, otherwise you get very different answers. Okay, so here A is positive 1, B is negative 3, and C is negative 5. Not just B is 3, C is 5. Always watch the positives and the negatives in front of the numbers. So a quick check, B squared minus 4AC, the determinant tells us that it's positive 29. So we know we're actually going to get two answers, okay? Going to definitely get two answers because the determinant is positive. Okay. All right. So you substitute in B, A and C into this quadratic formula, minus B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2 times A. We end up with these answers here. And they're in surd form and they're as fractions, and that's fine. So we've got 3 plus the square root of 29 over 2, or 3 minus the square root of 29 over 2. Now, because it said give your answer to 2 decimal places, we can now go and just evaluate those 2 possible answers in our calculator. And we would find that x is equal to 4.19 or negative 1.19. You see the squiggly lines here? That represents approximate, okay? Because of course, the square root of 29 is a surd, it's an irrational number, so you'll never actually be able to give an exact answer in decimal form. We would leave our answer as that normally, unless we're asked to actually answer it and approximate it as a decimal. So that's example 3. Our last example is here. Now the last example, I've shown you 2 possible ways that we could solve this. Okay, and I want to have a quick chat about thinking about the strategy that you use to solve your equation if you're able to choose whatever strategy that you want. If you're asked obviously to solve it using the square or using the formula or by using product sum, then you need to do that. However, if it's an open question and just asks you to solve it, you can pick and choose the strategy that you want to use. So you can use the quadratic formula here because the determinant tells us that we can solve it. It's a positive. So substituting into the formula of plus or minus, we follow down this path to get our solutions. Now, it's quite a trek here because we're dealing with fractions and we're dealing with surds that we need to simplify because unless we're asked to evaluate the equation to a decimal place, we need to leave it in the exact answer, which will involve surds, and we always look to simplify surds. Okay? So again, if we need to be sure that we can simplify surds by breaking the surd up into factors of perfect squares, and we would end up with the square root of 112 equaling 4 times the square root of 7 in both scenarios, just plus or minus. Now there's a common factor of 2, so we can factorise 10 plus 4 root 7 as 2 times 5 plus 2 root 7, or 2 times 5 minus 2 root 7, and then of course the 2's cancel out in both scenarios, so we're simply just left with x is equal to 5 plus 2 root 7 or minus 2 root 7. Now, just as a note, it's equally as valid to give an answer that looks like this, like we talked about in the previous video. We can say that the answer is 5 plus or minus 2 root 7 to save a bit of space and time. So either of those three ways of answering is fine. My preference is to answer like this because it saves me time. Rather than having to write out two full answers, I just write out one answer with a plus or a minus to tell that that 2 root 7 is either added or taken away from that 5, depending on the possible solution. We could have also solved this equation by completing the square though. Now just taking a quick look at what we had to do here compared to what we had to do here, I think you can probably conclude that in fact we would have been better to probably just complete the square. Because in this scenario here, completing the square was a lot simpler. Because when we halved the middle term, because it's an even number, we'll always get a whole number answer, and we don't have to then deal with fractions. So 10 divided by 2 is equal to 5. Any even number divided by 2 will always be a whole answer. And 5 squared is 25. Now I'm not going to go over completing the square again in detail because we have covered that, but that ends up being x squared minus 10x plus 25. Taking it away straight away again is minus 25 minus the 3. So that's a perfect square, becomes x minus 5 squared. Minus 25 minus 3 is negative 28, but bringing it over to the other side so we can solve the equation, we end up with the x minus 5 squared equaling positive 28. So taking the square root of both sides to find out what x minus 5 is, x minus 5 is equal to plus 28, or x minus 5 is equal to negative 28. And then bringing the negative 5 over to the other side of the equation in both cases, we end up with our two possible solutions of x equals 5 plus 2 root 7 or 5 minus 2 root 7. Or of course, we can write it as 5 plus or minus 2 root 7, as I said before. Now, when we know how, that's a lot easier. A lot less steps, much less of a trek. So here I would say if you could choose your strategy, you would definitely complete the square rather than using the formula, because there's a lot less you need to deal with in terms of simplifying surds. Now, as I said, have a look at the equation. If the equation you're solving ends up being that the middle b term, when you halve it, gives you a whole number, that is, the middle term is even. If that middle term is even, and there's only a 1 in front of the x squared, that is, it's a monic equation, then you're generally always just better to complete the square to solve the equation, if it can be solved. So just as a tip, think about the strategy that you use. The formula looks great because it just looks like you can plug and chug the B and the A and the C's into a formula and it just magically figures it out for you. But you can see here, it's not always that simple. Okay, there's still a fair bit of maths you need to do there to get the most correct simplified answer. Here, much less of a trek. So the summary here is, think about the strategy you want to use. Check the determinant just to make sure it's worth your while solving it, because if it's negative, why bother? And just see, if you've got a monic equation and the middle term is even, then I'd recommend just simply completing the square to solve it. However, it's up to you to choose what strategy you'd like to use if it's not specified to you which strategy you need to use. Okay, so always just remember that in the back of your mind. Okay, so that's covered the uses of the quadratic formula, where to use it, when to use it, and possibly when not to use it if you have a choice. Okay, hopefully that's helped, and have a look on the lesson plan just to work through some of the questions in the textbook to practice this skill. Cheers. Have a good break. Bye.